Over the last few months at The Rebel, we've been trying something new, and I want to hear from you guys if you agree with me, but I think that it's been working. The Rebel and myself personally have seen some massive growth, particularly in the United States, where a lot of our coverage has been based out of. I've been to LA, San Diego, Washington, D.C., New York, Alabama, and seen some pretty crazy things. And I think that the coverage that we've provided has been pretty high quality. We've been doing our best to make sure that we're covering the other side of the story, the side of the story that CNN in the United States and CBC in Canada doesn't want you to hear. Now, whether you have been with me for months or whether or not you just joined in after you watched me scrum Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, doesn't matter. I want to hear from you what you think our coverage should look like going forward. And I'll give you some ideas of what that will look like for me and what I think it will look like. And I also want to recap some of the stuff that we've done over the past few months in terms of changing our coverage so that you can give us your feedback, so that you can let us know if we're on the right track. Now, just about 3 months ago, we took everything out of the studio. We've been doing a lot less green screen videos and actually hitting the pavement, interviewing people, following stories, going to places that the CBC and CNN just won't go. For example, I was just in Alabama about 3 months ago now with a drone, flying a drone through the woods of Alabama, documenting a terrorist training camp. Check this out. Now, it doesn't get much more suspicious than this story. It's not just the fact that the grandfather, the patriarch of this family, who's a notorious Islamic religious leader, who's an unindicted co-conspirator of the World Trade Center bombings a few decades ago. It's not the fact that there were 11 children being trained to shoot up FBI agents in schools. It's the fact that the prosecution has been bungled on these folks at almost every turn. Now, it's not just Alabama that we've been to. We've been to Trump rallies. We've been covering provincial elections in Canada, particularly in Newfoundland, when I scrummed the leader of the so-called Conservative Party, asking him if he thought that the defeat lays at his platform, the socialist platform that he ran on. Of course, his answer wasn't very bright. Here's what it was. Conservatives have been winning time and time again in provincial elections throughout the past few years. The difference between your campaign and theirs is that you've been appealing to socialists in the NDP party. Do you regret doing that, not running really as a conservative?
Look, I'm running as a Newfoundlander and Labradorian and representing the majority sentiment. What happened here tonight is the government using every potential advantage that they had to undercut the democratic process.
Do you think that your flip-flop on kicking out a social conservative candidate hurt your credibility?
That was not a flip-flop.
We've been covering Canadian stories, we've been covering American stories, but one international story that we've been covering was the story of the garbage ship. Now, if you're in the United States, you might have heard in Canada, a private company shipped a boatload, literally, of garbage to the Philippines, and it sat there rotting for years and years and years. And only now, after a bunch of squabbling and even a threat from the president of the Philippines to declare war on peaceful old Canada, did the Canadian government finally accept to return the shipment and then proceeded to burn it all in Canadian facilities, releasing heavy metals into the atmosphere and plenty of carbon dioxide, when our Liberal government, that is the last thing they want to be doing. It doesn't look good on them. But they really didn't understand what they were doing. So we were covering this story to make sure that everyone knew what was going on. Check out this coverage. I went to the actual facility where all of this trash was going to be incinerated. Check this out. Now, I don't know what's got Minister Catherine McKenna so stoked about this facility, yet she hates coal facilities. This is almost as bad as a coal facility, and it's certainly worse than a natural gas facility in terms of GHG emissions per kilowatt hour produced. My degree is in energy sciences and energy economics, so it's nice to be able to talk about something that really is my wheelhouse, something that the Minister, Catherine McKenna, cannot relate to whatsoever, because she's totally unqualified to do the job that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has tasked her with. Our coverage has also taken us to Washington, D.C. It's the city that ever provides. Of course, with Ilhan Omar, the stories just never stop. I haven't just been covering Ilhan Omar, though. Of course, I was welcomed to the White House to cover the Trudeau visit. Here's that coverage. My main question here today is if Justin Trudeau will be lecturing the president on social issues after he lectured Vice President Mike Pence when he came to Canada. Here's my question to Trudeau. Prime Minister, will you be lecturing the president on social issues? Now, of course, Washington, D.C. is the city that always has news. 24/7, there's always a story breaking, and we've been on the heels of some of the biggest stories coming out of D.C. this last month, and most of them have been surrounding Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. After I scrummed her the first time when she called ICE facilities concentration camps, I returned just about a week later with another question because a bunch of documents surfaced showing that Ilhan Omar probably, maybe, married her brother. Check this scrum out. When she wasn't really very interested in chatting to me, when she knew that if she answered, she would either have to lie or make herself look pretty bad. Can you tell me definitively or not, is Ahmad Elsi your brother?
For the markup?
Yeah.
Is he your
We're in
brother?
the middle of the
And
legislative
we're going
briefing.
we're going, yeah.
Is he your brother?
We're going to which one?
It's foreign affairs. I'll go with you. Can you tell me definitively, yes or no, is he your brother? And why can't you answer that question?
The remarks you gave me earlier.
Now, it's not just Ilhan Omar that we've been covering. I was kicked out of the Canadian embassy when I was in Washington, D.C. by a Prime Minister's office staffer after he admitted to colluding with the supposedly nonpartisan press gallery. Check this out.
So the Prime Minister's office has made the unilateral decision to not let me in?
The Prime Minister's office has agreed with the Canadian Press Gallery that your organization's views are not welcome. So that's all I have. They'll get you to leave, but I just wanted to come
So
to
the
let
Prime
you know.
Minister's office determines who can and cannot cover Canadian politics in the United States?
It's a Canadian embassy event, and you are also not an accredited journalist in the Canadian Press Gallery at a Canadian media event, and that's why. So.
Now, probably the biggest story that I've covered was just this week. It was when I scrummed everyone in the squad, Ayanna Pressley, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and I asked them a very simple question: will they disavow terrorism? And obviously they wouldn't. Not only did that happen in the halls of Congress, Ilhan Omar proceeded to go to a press conference where she refused to denounce Al-Qaeda. So it's a reoccurring issue with Ilhan Omar, but it certainly was a news story for AOC and Pressley. See, politicians usually leap at the opportunity to denounce terrorism, but in their case, they just didn't want to do it. It's weird, and that coverage was actually shared millions of times. It was actually on Fox News, it was on Tucker Carlson, and many conservative news outlets, because of course the mainstream media isn't going to share anything that makes the squad look bad in any way, shape, or form. It was shared everywhere, and I was delighted to be able to provide that coverage. So just a small snippet of it actually in the last 3 months, and we're going to keep going. Now my direct messages are open on Twitter, and I love hearing from you guys. Any suggestions that you have going forward, stories that you'd like us to cover, or any tips on what we've been doing that you'd like us to change. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. We're here for you to provide the best content possible right to your phone screens. I hope you enjoyed our coverage over the last few months, and I hope you stay along for the ride. It's going to get bumpy, but it's going to be fun. For the Rebel.media, I'm Keean Bexte. Hey, thanks for watching our coverage, especially over the last 3 months. We've been doing new stuff here at The Rebel. If you've enjoyed it, please be sure to send me a message on Twitter. Follow me at TheRealKeean. Send me a direct message. Let me know what you think.